My name is Chantel Stuckman, and when I was 6 months pregnant, we were asked to go see the perinatal specialist because they didn't feel that Chance's heart and brain were developing the way it should be developing. And so we spent about an hour and a half in an appointment where they were doing multiple ultrasounds, measuring everything over and over, and really not saying anything to us. We had no idea what was going on. And after that, the doctor came in, introduced himself, and then quietly spent about a half hour looking at the same ultrasounds, and then he just kind of pushed himself away from the desk and told us that our baby had major birth defects, and that our best hope was that he would have Down syndrome, but that it was very likely that within we would take him home, and within 2 weeks after being born there would be nothing they could do and he would pass away, and that I needed to have an amniocentesis right that day in order to determine that. And a couple weeks later we found out that he in fact did not have Down syndrome, which is of course what we were hoping that he did, and so that was devastating. In that same appointment, he basically told us that we had just a couple of weeks to decide if we were going to abort. I don't know that I would call it encouraging. I would just call it pressuring, rushing us to answer. Chance had hydrocephalus, and so the plan was for him to be born in an operating room. So we went into a regular labor and delivery room, and I knew that he was getting ready to be born, and I called David to tell the doctors and nurses because they weren't in there, and I knew that we needed to be moved, and they didn't believe us that he was coming so quickly. And so David came back in, and I told him, no, really, he's coming right now. And so David went out, and actually he looked and saw that his head was coming. And so he went and grabbed them, and they came in, probably 20, 30 of them came rushing in. He was delivered. I caught a glimpse of this purple little baby, and they rushed him off. And it was left David and I alone in the room, it was about 3 hours before I actually got to meet him. They had no idea, and even through his first 3 years, they really had no idea. They told us he would probably not live in the beginning, and then he lived. They told us he would probably not speak, and he spoke. They told us he would not walk, and he walked. They told us he wouldn't read, and he reads. And so at one point it just became laughable for them as well as myself, and they just quit making predictions because they just had no idea what he was going to be able to do. I think that all children struggle, and I don't think that killing them is ever our first option. I don't think we look at a child who's going through drug abuse and say, well, you know, they're really struggling, maybe it would be better if I kill them. I don't think we look at a child who is diagnosed with a terminal illness and say, well, maybe we should just kill them because their suffering is going to be too much. So I don't see the fact that a child may or may not struggle as a reason to end their life. So that's first. The second reason, which may come as a surprise to you too, that I did not abort Chance is because when I was a teenager, I was encouraged to have an abortion, and I listened, and I had an abortion when I was a teenager. And it is something that I've had to live with my whole life and not wanted to tell anyone. And I'm living with the fact that there is a baby that I ended its life, and I'll never know how it would have impacted the world had he or she had the chance to be born. I am definitely in support of the Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, Ordinance, because I have a child who by society standards, would have been encouraged to end his life, and he has impacted so many people in such a positive way. Had I done that, he would not have had the chance to live, and so I am in support of it in protection of all of the other children who don't have someone speaking for them.